death.
Welcome back, guys, to another Clash Royale video, and today I want to share with you guys my personal top 3 free-to-play decks for pushing from Arena 7 all the way up to Arena 8 and potentially even Arena 9. And the reason I call them free-to-play decks is I specifically built them to have no epics and no legendaries in them to make it easier for the free-to-play player to build these decks. That being said, if you guys are lucky enough to have some high-level epics or have a couple of legendary cards, go ahead and use those decks. If you have questions on how to fit a legendary or an epic in one of these decks, feel free to let me know in the comment section below, and I'll try and offer you some advice on what kind of cards to replace. Legendaries like the Ice Wizard or the Princess are support cards, and they fit pretty well in any deck, but stuff like the Lava Hound or the Sparky require a specific deck around those legendaries. And before we go on to the first deck here, I just want to say that you're going to notice a lot of these same support cards in all 3 of these decks. And the simple reason for that is I'm a free-to-play player and I just don't have the gold available to upgrade multiple cards. I can only afford to upgrade a handful of cards, so I try and make use of those cards in every single deck that I use. That being said, if you guys want to use different support cards, feel free to ask me in the comment section below where they'll fit in, and I'll try and give you guys some advice on what kind of cards to replace. But let's go ahead here to the very first deck. So the first deck we have here is going to be the Giant Support deck, and if you guys are lucky enough to have some epics or legendaries, I'll offer some decks for you. The Giant Witch deck is very strong right now, the Giant Balloon deck is extremely strong right now, and the Giant Sparky deck, of course, is very strong right now. But I wanted to build this deck for free-to-play players, so I don't have any epics or legendaries in it. Now, the whole idea with this deck is to set up an overwhelming push with the Giant up front and then a bunch of support troops to follow, but that does require a lot of Elixir, so that's why I had the Elixir Collector in this deck, and my main idea is to try and build up the Elixir for later on in the battle and then set up an overwhelming push. But right here, Musketeer was played on defense. Gonna go ahead and support her with a Giant up front and set up a counter push. Now take a look at this. He has no Elixir left to defend. There's one Musketeer doing a decent amount of damage to the tower while everything is distracted by the Giant. Now take a look at how much damage this one Musketeer did to that tower, bringing it all the way down from full health down to 200 health in one counter push. And this is the reason why I use the Musketeer in almost every single deck that I use. She has insane defensive value, and she's also really strong on offense as well. So I like to build my decks with cards that I can use on defense and then follow up with a counter push. And as you can see right there, we were able to bring that tower all the way down to 200 health. So second Elixir Collector going down here, getting the Elixir flowing for later on in the battle. There's a minute and 40 seconds left, and we have a huge damage lead. I made both of my towers still 100% full health in this battle. Now right here, going to go ahead and place down my Musketeer in the back behind my King Tower and start getting ready for this defense against this Valkyrie. Once the Valkyrie gets closer to the bridge, I'm going to go ahead and use my Valkyrie to distract her and protect my Musketeer. Now on the right hand side, he's got a pretty strong push coming in with the Giant as well as the Balloon. I'm going to go ahead and use the Cannon to distract the Giant. And of course, the Goblins do a lot of single target damage, and they're also very cheap and easy to get down on defense in an emergency. And as a result, we're able to take out the Giant pretty quickly and then drop down the Musketeer once again to take out that Balloon. The Balloon only gets one hit off my tower, so definitely not too bad right there. Now right here, as you can see, I also have the Fireball and the Valkyrie available, but I always prefer to use troops to counter troops if I can, instead of using spell, because I'm using this same 4 Elixir, but then right here, he has to deal with the counter push. Now he's going to go in with a minion horde as well as a Balloon. Down goes the Fireball to kill his minions, and then I'm going to try and use the Cannon here to distract the Balloon, but unfortunately it was a half a second too late, so I was also forced to use the Musketeer to take it out. And with 30 seconds left here, all I really have to do is play defensively, and I will be able to save my tower and get the 1 crown victory. So he's going to go ahead and drop down the Valkyrie and start setting up a push here. I'm going to use my Valkyrie to distract his. Down goes his Giant, and as you can see, I'm just dropping down troops in the right-hand lane and just trying to stall him out and get that 1 crown victory. Down goes the Fireball here to kill that minion horde. His Giant coming in here, but I do have the Cannon down to take it out. Now take a look at this, my Giant does make it to the tower and does some decent damage, bringing it down to 1600 health, but with 3 seconds left, we are going to get the 1 crown victory. Let's go ahead and take a look at the next deck. So the next deck here, as you probably could have guessed, is the Royal Giant deck, and it's just a great option for free-to-play players, because being a common card, it's very easy for us to get an upgrade and have it to a competitive level. Now you're going to notice, like I said before, a lot of the same support cards in this deck right here. For example, the Zap spell I use in almost every single one of my decks. That's pretty self-explanatory as to why it's so popular, but the cannon, for example, is in my opinion still the best defensive structure in this game, just because it's the cheapest elixir cost defense, and that means it can keep up with the fast cycling decks. And in my opinion, it's always better to spend elixir on troops on defense versus spending it on a defensive structure, just because your troops will go back on a counter push, whereas your defensive structures won't. So the less elixir that I spend on a defense means the more elixir that I have to spend on a troop. Now right here, mini P.E.K.K.A going in. Now unfortunately I don't have my Zap spell available. If I did, I could have killed those skeletons and allowed the mini P.E.K.K.A to get at least one hit on the tower, but the Royal Giant was able to do some decent damage. Now my opponent here is using a really strong deck. He's using the Giant support deck with the Witch in it, which, like I said in the last replay, is a strong strategy. So right here, Witch coming in here with the skeletons up front, Giant going in there. I'm going to go ahead and use the Valkyrie to kill the Witch, but unfortunately with the poison spell going down, everything is slowed down and the Giant is going to do some decent damage to my tower. But right here, placing down my mini P.E.K.K.A, he's going to kill that Giant and then go on a counter push. And take a look at this. This is what I mean about I always prefer to spend my elixir on troops versus defensive structure, because right here, those troops are going to go back on a counter push. The mini P.E.K.K.A is able to hit that tower twice, bringing the tower all the way down to 670 health, and with one counter push, I'm back in this game. Now I'm going to go ahead here and use the Musketeer to counter that Valkyrie, and then I'm going to go ahead and drop down a cannon to help protect my Musketeer, because I want the Musketeer to survive and go on a counter push. Now right here, we're almost in the double elixir period. Musketeer crossing that bridge. I'm not actually going to support her with any troops because I want to build up the elixir and get ready to do another Royal Giant push. So right here, dropping down the Valkyrie by my tower, and as soon as she makes her way up closer to that bridge, I'm going to go ahead and use my Royal Giant behind the Valkyrie and hopefully do some damage to that tower. So down goes the Royal Giant, crossing that bridge. Fireball going to go down here to damage the Witch, the Wizard, as well as the tower, and with the Royal Giant finishing off, giving me the 1 crown lead. Now all I have to do is play defensively for the next 30 seconds or so, and I will get the victory. Mini P.E.K.K.A going down here to counter the Giant. Now the reason I had the Mini P.E.K.K.A in this deck is the Mini P.E.K.K.A is very strong right now. He counters a lot of the popular cards. He counters the Giant, he counters the Hog Rider, and he counters the Royal Giant. But the reason I have him in this deck here is, like I said, a lot of people use the Mini P.E.K.K.A to counter the Royal Giant. So having a Mini P.E.K.K.A of my own means I can place him in front of my Royal Giant to help protect him against enemy Mini P.E.K.K.As. So right here, 7 seconds left. Giant coming in here, goblins, the Musketeer, and the cannon. Take it out pretty quickly, and I will get the 1 crown victory. Let's go ahead and take a look at the last deck here. So the final deck here is going to be the Hog Rider Cycle deck, one of my personal favorite decks to use. Now there's so many different ways to build a Hog Rider Cycle deck. Each one of them have their strengths and weaknesses. If you guys want to use some different support cards in your decks, like I said earlier, let me know in the comment section below and I'll try and offer you some advice on what kind of cards to replace. But right here, my opponent is coming in pretty aggressive. Gonna go ahead and use the cannon as well as the Zap spell to defend, and in the end we do come out ahead in the elixir exchange, so definitely a good defense right there. Now as you can see right here, I am sitting on my Hog Rider, but it's a little bit too early in the battle to go in with a Hog Rider because I don't know what kind of cards my opponent has in his deck. So I want to play defensively for a little bit longer and try and figure out what kind of cards my opponent has. Musketeer going down here with the Valkyrie in the back. I'm going to go ahead and use some goblins here to distract his Musketeer, and all I really want to do is give my Valkyrie time to get ahead of my Musketeer to help protect her. So right here I have a decent counter push going on. Valkyrie in the front with the Musketeer in the back. The Valkyrie will get 2 hits on that tower, bringing it down to 2100 health, so not too bad right there. Spirit Goblins going down here, going to go ahead and use the Zap spell to finish off that Mini P.E.K.K.A as well as the Fire Spirits, because I really didn't want that Mini P.E.K.K.A even getting 1 hit on my tower. So right here, I'm going to build up the elixir and then start setting up a second push on the left-hand lane with that Valkyrie dropping down behind the King Tower, doing a slow push, but unfortunately he goes on the right-hand side with the Lumberjack, so I am forced to defend. Musketeer going in there to finish it off pretty easily. He does fireball my Musketeer as well as my tower, which does one-shot my Musketeer, which honestly is one of my pet peeves, because I've had so many scenarios where a 1-health Musketeer is able to go on a counter push and do a couple hundred damage to a tower. So whenever my opponent is able to fireball, one-shot my Musketeer, definitely really annoying and definitely a huge disadvantage in the battle. Now on the left hand side, that Valkyrie was able to go back on a counter push and do some decent damage to that tower, bringing it down to like 1300 health, so we are still very much ahead in this battle. Gonna go ahead and drop down my cannon, which is a huge waste of elixir, but I didn't have any other options for a push. I needed my Valkyrie in my hand to do a Hog Rider push, but unfortunately it doesn't end up working out. He does have the cannon, as well as a Mini P.E.K.K.A and the Musketeer to take it out. And now right here, I have a really strong counter push to worry about, but the cannon does take it out pretty quickly. Once again, the fireball one-shotting my musketeer. As you can see, I wasn't too impressed, dropping on the wow emote right there. Really annoyed, like I said, whenever the fireball one-shots my musketeer. Now, Valkyrie going back on a counter push right here. I'm going to just allow her to go back on a counter push. Not going to support her with anything, and hopefully she can get one hit on that tower, but she doesn't, so not really great there. Now, the cannon going down here to distract his lumberjack. He's going to go in with a musketeer as well as some minions. I have a musketeer as well as some spirit goblins defending here. Zap spell going down as well as some goblins to distract his mini P.E.K.K.A. And with 19 seconds left until overtime, I'm going to try and make something happen to get that tower down on the left-hand side. I have a decent counter push going on here. Hog Rider going in there, and this time I kind of predicted his cannon, so I'm going to have the Zap spell ready to stun everything. Now, unfortunately, his fireball takes out everything in one hit, guys. If that fireball didn't one-shot my musketeer, she would have got at least 2 hits on that tower because the Hog Rider would have tanked it for her. So definitely a huge disadvantage right there. Now, setting up another counter push here with the Valkyrie up front and the musketeer once again. Hog Rider going down, and this time he doesn't have his cannon in rotation. He has to drop his lumberjack first, which means it gives me time to build up elixir before the cannon goes down, and as a result, the Hog Rider makes it to the tower, bringing it all the way down to 456 health. So all I need here is 2 fireballs and 1 zap to finish off that tower. So I want to focus on defending and then trying to use my spells to finish it off. Fireball going down here to damage that tower, as well as damage the lumberjack. Gonna go ahead and use the zap spell, unfortunately, to stun that mini P.E.K.K.A. And I'm gonna go ahead and use the Valkyrie here to distract everything. And all I need to do is cycle once again to my zap as well as the fireball, and I will get the 1 crown victory over a higher level. So here we are, 10 seconds left. Fireball going down with the zap spell to finish it off, giving me the 1 crown victory. So to summarize here, my personal list of the top 3 free-to-play decks for pushing to Arena 8 are the Giant Support deck, the Royal Giant deck, as well as the Hog Rider Cycle deck. Now, if you guys have any epics or legendaries, or even different support cards that you want to use in any 3 of these decks, please feel free, like I said, to let me know in the comment section below, and I will try to offer you some advice on what kind of cards to replace. But anyways, guys, that's going to do it for today's video. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.